Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my finest friends. Welcome to the 19th episode of season 10 of the Tom Petty Project podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Brown. This is the weekly podcast that digs into the entire Tom Petty catalog, song by song, album by album, and includes conversations with musicians, fans, and people connected with Tom along the way. Today's episode is a non-Petty episode with Dan Durkin of, among other bands, Petty Theft, the sensational Tom Petty tribute band from San Francisco. Dan has a new single out, which I love, and I asked him if he'd want to come back on the show to talk about it. There's definitely a Petty influence in this first release, I would say. It's Dan's first release as a solo artist, and we dive into the song itself, as well as his route into playing and writing music. Dan was such a blast to hang out with. He's such an easy guy to get along with. And I know you're going to enjoy this one. There will be links in the episode notes to Dan's new single, When Love Is Not Around. So please go give it a watch. It's also a fantastic video, which we talked about lots. And go subscribe to Dan's channel and give him a like. Yeah, let's get into it. Here's me talking to the wonderful, multi-talented Dan Durkin.
Tom Petty. Tom Petty Project. Tom Petty. Hey, Tom Petty Project.
You're in Petaluma then, right? So,
I'm in Petaluma, California.
okay. And is that where you're from originally? Where did you grow up?
No, I'm originally from Long Island, New York.
Oh, so the other corner.
Yeah, town called Garden City. Though I was born in Flushing, Hospital, Queens, but we moved to Great Neck first in Long Island, and then from there, when I was 3, we moved to Garden City, and then we moved 73. We came out to California. My dad was a big restaurant guy. He worked for Stouffer's.
Okay.
When Stouffer's was restaurants before it became frozen food, they were a big chain that started in Chicago, and he was manager on Fifth Avenue. And they would, these guys, they're doing like 2,500 lunches a day, in the late 50s, 60s, downtown.
Yeah.
They had to have like 4 managers on, it was a big restaurant, and in the heart of New York City, and there wasn't much else. It wasn't like there was a lots of different cuisine yet. This is like, we're talking Americana, and all that food that you see in in Stouffer's frozen line is what they served.
Right.
Fried chicken. There wasn't much, meatloaf, fried chicken, macaroni and cheese. That's what it was. We used to go there all the time because it was free, I guess. But we used to go in to brunch on Sundays there too. I remember that. Just always loving that, going to New York City. It's about a half hour from New York City.
Okay. And so you were pretty young when you moved to California then?
Yeah, I was 13.
Okay.
So 1973. And my dad, after Stouffer, towards the 70s, the restaurants were dying out. The frozen food line was starting to happen. And then he just got out of it. And Quaker Oats, I think, owned part of Stouffer's or something. And they said they had a job for him to run this new concept called the Magic Pan. I'm not sure if you remember that, but it was all solely crepes. Everything was in a crepe. And it was a big success. Started in Ghirardelli Square to a couple that owned 2 stores, one on Sutter Street and one in Ghirardelli Square, San Francisco. They sold it to Quaker Oats. My dad was brought in to run what became like 80 restaurants nationwide. So it was a big promotion anyway. So
Cool.
There we were. I mean, it changed our whole life, everybody.
Yeah. And so what was it like then musically in the household? Like, are your parents musical or music fans, or what was that like?
No,
What were your
my
early
dad
influences?
used to have a ukulele around.
Okay.
And he used to play those little fun ukulele songs. But no, nobody really was musical. But my mom was Italian, my dad's Irish, Durkin. Perone was my mom's maiden name. And with that, there's a lot of artistic vibe in that part of my aunt was a great, not successful, but just really great artist. I mean, she could do anything. Never really wanted to pursue it. She could have easily. In fact, there's a whole couple of these of her around. You can't see it, but I have an oil of hers. And my grandfather too was just very creative. My mom was decorator, could put a room together like you can't believe. So I think all that was part of that gene I got. So how it started musically, I might have talked about this on your show with Django, with Petty Theft, is that so in Long Island, we'd go to my grandmother's on Sunday nights. Ed Sullivan show was on after dinner. You always watched Ed Sullivan. went to my grandmother's in Queens, and they were on that night. That was and I was 3.5. And I remember just going, as a 3.5-year-old, I remember things. I remember the black and white TV. I remember what looked to me when I have the memory of these bowling pins. That kind of funny, because they were these skinny things, and but I was attracted to Ringo. I was like, wow, man. So I was a drummer first because of that. And then as I got into it, my mom got me the Beatle guitar and the wig and album, and it was just amazing to me. And it was like my whole world just went like, well, this is something. This is something.
Yeah.
I just knew that like whatever this is, I'm in on this thing.
It's funny how, like, I'm talking to lots of guests about that. Obviously the Beatles being English, they had a huge impact on English music.
Yes.
But the impact they had in America and through that Ed Sullivan show was just seismic, wasn't it? There was something cultural switch.
Well, they had the Kennedy assassination. Again, I remember also walking in on my family, watching that casket and that black and white television and the casket with the flag on it. And I go back out and play, but I remember that vivid thing. At 3.5, you have these kind of, you don't have really perfect memories, but you remember stuff, an emotion. So that was it. So after the Beatles show, she went, God bless her, went to Woolworths and got me that wig and got me the record. And I remember just sitting there, it was mono, and we had that big speaker, and you open the door to, what were those things called? This giant,
big cabinet things,
you open the door and there was the record, you put it on, and then there was a big speaker, and I would sit against that speaker with mono and listen to that record over and over and look at them and go, what the F is this? I mean, it was exciting. It was, when I think about that time, I really think about, there was something in that air for sure.
Definitely.
Something on a global, global.
You see, you think of the look of them too, though, right? That was definitely part of it. They were so striking visually, and they were so sort of energetic. And when you watch that Ed Sullivan performance, it's just like they're barely constrained, right?
No, so the music was just so great, And I think also the success, like you were saying about in the U.S., is that we come from rock and roll, which they were influenced by. We come to that point, and then all of a sudden it got to be like Pat Boone. And it got to be all those, singer guys that were kind of, just not rock and roll, right? And they were actually covering songs from rock and roll, but they were tamed down. And, Donovan, or not Donovan, any of those guys that were those singer, good-looking guys, like Frankie Avalon and all that, that was happening in the late 50s and the early 60s, and then girl groups, but nothing crazy. But as soon as they came on, it was like, well, take a look at this. This is, It was great. I mean,
I remember you saying that you really were sort of drawn to Lennon as well, especially as a vocalist.
Yes,
because there is something about, and it's funny because I do another podcast, the Queen podcast, with a friend of mine, and we do this little thing for our sort of patron type setup where we do different songs that are not Queen, and we covered "Watching the Wheels" by Lennon from Double Fantasy, and it's weird because it's one of those songs that for some reason had just slid by me. And I didn't know it. And when you listen to a song like that, that's a late career Lennon song, last album before he died.
Very late career,
It just reminds you how brilliant that guy was. Not just as one of the Beatles, or not just as this cultural icon, but as a songwriter,
Right. Great songwriter.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, I like Petty being able to just do that in 3 minutes, or 2 minutes or whatever it is,
Yeah.
Something always to learn. And, I mean, and through Lennon and stuff, Petty comes from in a lot of ways,
of course,
he's in there. So, I mean, but the Beatles for me still and will be, the biggest influence on me, even though, I don't sound like John Lennon, but I think about Twist and Shout, or when I'm singing and try to throat it up, that's what's in the back of my mind. Don't let me down. That's what's in the back of my mind when I'm singing.
That's what really good artists and performers do, right? Is you take your influences and you don't try and mimic or ape, but you just let them filter into whatever you're doing, and you take what works for you and what doesn't, you leave alone, right?
Right. And with the petty theft thing, though, and the guys kind of always get on me about this, is that you're trying to sound like them too much. Go back to you, because it starts to sound too cartoony, or she grew up, and I do it. I just do it because I got so used to it in the bars when we first started that I needed to do that, because it was like you were a tribute band, and I don't sound like Tom Petty. I don't have that timbre. I bet you on the lower stuff, his later career stuff, I think,
Right.
I can do that way better than I can do, refugee. But it seems to be working, and we're 20 years on with it, so
Yeah.
it's
Well,
my bread and butter. So I'm very
playing
grateful for
gig
that.
after gig after gig after gig, right? You're a
Uh,
busy boy because not only have you got petty theft,
I got
which is
the
a full-time
Eagles.
job, you got Eagles as well. I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah,
So
I
you got
have
all your
the. It's
solo
called
stuff.
it's called the Illegal. So we started that about 6 years ago.
Okay.
Years ago, it's been really fun, interesting, and I'm really more the glue vocally for that. And it's really about the blend of all the vocals.
Yeah.
Do I sing like Desperado and Tequila Sunrise, and I do a couple like that, but it's all shared between the 5 vocalists, like the record. But we don't, again, like Petty Theft, we don't look like them. We don't want to look like them.
Yeah.
Honor the music. It's kind of Eagles with a little bit of an edge, because they were kind of more, even though with Joe Walsh, they were still a bit more countrified and kind of, sage sounding, I think, but beautiful. And live, my God, I mean, there's no one that could do that. The sound, I mean, I remember seeing them in 1980 on that long run tour and
Okay.
being blown away by how they sounded exactly like the record. It's just before technology, right?
Yeah, for sure.
These guys singing beautifully. So anyway, it's been a really fun thing. I play piano on that one and guitar, and the piano stuff's not too hard. It's just, I'm not really a virtuoso, but I can deliver a song and sing it.
Yeah.
And play it. Kind of like McCartney. He's not like that, but he plays this thing.
Yeah, and I mean,
Works for the Eagles.
Eagles are pretty much cowboy chords for the most part, and they're accessible songs to get into. I mean, I play piano. I'm a hack pianist as well, right? And it's the same thing. So, okay, well, if I can just play octave bass, and I can play
Right.
G, D, A, E, B flat,
Well,
B
yeah,
minor,
I mean,
I can get most
exactly.
of those songs.
I mean, that's really what a guitar does anyway. I mean, so, I mean, I'm a little past that, but I'm not, as good as Elton, but I could definitely play Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, and I can play, I wish I had this on, Tiny Dancer, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when I get into Billy Joel stuff, it's like, oh, I spend more time on it, I'm doing Allentown, which I just love. And
yeah, it's a great track.
Really cool. There's so many cool chords in that. And yeah. So I do the solo gig too. So when I'm not working with those Illegals or Petty Theft, then I do the solo thing, which I really love. And I can do all those kind of songs.
Yeah.
I love, I do David Bowie. I do Queen. I do Crazy Little Thing Called Love, because it's
nice.
It's really fun to kind of do that, and James Taylor stuff and all that. So, and I bring the piano to that gig as well. So I got there's guitars or piano songs. So
a bit of variety for the crowd.
And then the drum gig I have is called Revolver. So that's about maybe 8 times a year, and I play drums in that, and it's 60s.
Okay.
Revolver not being Beatles, Revolver meaning, and I didn't make up the name, is being records. So we do like Dave Clark 5 and Animals and all that British Invasion stuff. And then we kind of do this late 60s, early 70s CSN, because we're all singers, 3 of us. So we do Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, and we do 49 Bye-Byes, stuff that you don't hear.
Yeah.
We'll do in a bar or whatever.
Well, and you got to be able to play.
Busy.
You got to be able to play drums a little bit to do some of that 60s stuff, because the swing element, the role in the rock that those guys used to play with it's a specific thing, right?
I didn't study drums. I learned drums from the records. I learned from Charlie Watts. I learned from Ringo Starr. I learned from Creedence Clearwater's drummer. We had a jukebox down in the basement, and I had my drum kit, and my folks, as I was like 5 years old, they gave me a snare first. We kind of added the kit each year for Christmas. So by the time I was like 8, I had a full kit kind of. And we had this jukebox, and my job and my sister's job was to go to Record World and go pick up the latest singles and bring them home. So my dad would give us some money. We go to those. Remember, they were in bins, and the record were these little cubbies, and you get the readout on the playlist of everything, and you see the number, and you grab. Okay, so I got the Supremes here, I got Sly Stone here, and it really was a great way for me to get introduced to music. But those
definitely.
songs that were Brown Sugar and any Beatles track, all Beatles were always in there. I played to them.
Yeah. When
And
you
that's-
learn, it's hard to learn from Ringo though, right? Because everything's backwards. And when you're trying to play a Ringo fill, you can't get it to sound that way because you're not a lefty, so you lead him with the wrong hand.
No.
Always. It's weird.
A good example of that is You Won't See Me. And when you hear the fill, not all the time though does the fill go from left to right, but on that one for sure, it's dooga 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 dooga. If you listen to those fills, people, you'll see that he's going from his floor tom to his mid tom, And
Yeah.
I try to do that, and it's really hard, you know.
Yeah, for
Really-
sure. Isn't it funny though that no one ever told him, well, just switch it to the other side. All you got to do is put the snare on that side and put your hat on that side and go the other
Right,
way. But of course, back in those days, you did learn by just watching other guys. And so when you
right,
watch a drummer, well, the snare goes there. So Ringo
right,
thought, okay, well, that's the way you do
right.
it. You know,
There's
it's
a
like you
picture of
playing
me.
lefty, right? Playing lefty
Yes,
guitar.
there's a picture of me from like 1970, and I'm down there in the basement actually, and it's really cool. It's like that Chambers Brothers album like in the back right there, and that's like, wow, it's pretty cool for a 10-year-old to have that behind him. Anyway, the picture is for some reason my hi-hat was on this side, and I'm right-handed, so I
Right.
guess I was doing that for a while. I don't know why, but and then as I got older, and then I switched it around. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting how that works. And to segue into my guitar playing is, and we might have discussed this, is that I play upside down.
Yeah.
I play a right-handed guitar this way, lefty. So the strings are on the bottom, high E's on the top. And that was from that ukulele that my dad had. I would take it and put on "She Loves You" or whatever the Beatles single was. I look in the mirror and I noticed McCartney played that way. So I just got used to holding it and being a Beatle in front of the mirror. So when I got older, this was all natural to me,
Yeah.
even though I'm right-handed. So figure that one out.
It's just crazy. It's a weird.
I'm a little crazy.
You're the only person I've ever known who does it that way around. It's mad.
It works.
Okay, so when did you start writing songs then? Like, what was your sort of evolution with being in bands where you're actually performing original stuff or writing your own music?
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't until I say about 17, I started to kind of write songs. And here's another thing about the left-handed or right-handed way playing upside down is that I made my own chords, which I thought were so I started writing because I couldn't learn. I didn't bother or really wanted to learn other people's music. Drums was one thing, but guitar, for some reason, I just kind of, I looked at charts. I didn't know what that meant. So,
Yeah.
and it was all, how can I do it that way? So I just started to write my own little riffs, and they weren't great, but they were, C major 7 now. And here's this thing to E, and what's that? And oh my God. And, my favorite chord is the A5,
Yeah.
and I call it California chords, but it's like, without the third, the A without things like that. You just discover, you think you discovered it.
Yeah.
Now they might sound a little different when they're played upside down, which is a cool thing for me.
Yeah.
So, and that's how it started. So I started kind of writing little ditties, then I formed a band when I was about 18 called Voyager, and with about 10 songs. I met this girl who was in my high school. Her name was Adarine, and we used to sing together, and we'd sing these songs that I'd write, and she'd sing with me, and we'd write them together, and had this band for about a year and a half. We
Yeah.
played all the high school lunchtime, sessions, I guess you would call it, right? Lunchtime from 12:30. They'd always have a live band on Thursdays that would play. So we did all the ones in the county, so that was my first foray into it. And then we sent a song into a local radio station, and we won. And we got to open up for Elvin Bishop, being the winners. We opened up for Elvin Bishop, right? Fooled Around and Fell in Love.
Yeah.
Elvin Bishop, and at Rancho Nicasio, back in like 1979. So that was the first band, the first original stuff. And from there, it kind of just started. Then I formed a band called Frontline in 1983. So that was another guy I met. So we're kind of like a Hall & Oates, but sounded like Toto. I don't know how to explain our sound. Should have sent you a track of that because it's pretty
definitely.
cool. It was a good band too, and we played all in Marin County, all the local bars, and we're doing really well. We got on local radio there. It's called K-Tide, and we were played all the time. And then we won this. We sent our song in 1987 to Yamaha Soundcheck, was called, and it was their contest for California.
Right.
And so out of 5,000 submissions, we were the top 6. We were picked. You sent 2 songs in, and we were picked. And so they flew us down to LA, and we battled 2 songs each down at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium.
Yeah.
And Bruce Hornsby was the headliner, so it was before Bruce Hornsby. And at that event were Quincy Jones, David Lee Roth, you name it, judges. The guys from Toto. These are all my heroes, right? And they were the judges, and we did our 2 songs, and we came in second place.
Yeah.
Winner went to the Budokan for that worldwide check. Yeah, that was tough. But through that, we got so many record deals. And who called us was the drummer from Paul McCartney's drummer, Denny Sewell.
No way.
Yeah, he wanted to produce us. He saw us at the thing, and I was like, and I didn't take the call at our little studio we had, and I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, his name is Denny. So I said, that's Denny Sewell, man. He played on Ram. I go, he played on My Love. He's like,
Yeah.
I go, yeah, we want to work with that guy. And I guess it didn't pan out in the, talking back and forth, but it was really exciting. But I remember going to the show from the hotel and going to the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium and seeing, I don't know, 50 limos lined up. Like, so, yeah. And my heart's going, yeah. I have a video of us too. Pete Weebell was from the Tubes was the MC, and Nina Blackwood. So it was quite for a 24-year-old or 27-year-old. Yeah. 87, 27-year-old. It was quite such a thing. Recorded at the record plant. We, had a lot of record interest, but then, the late 80s into the 90s, grunge started to happen. And then the real poppy Toto thing, which was my, I love a lot. It was kind of yacht rocky, I guess. I mean, looking back on it,
Yeah.
Cool stuff though. But that was that band. And then we get to East of Eden in 1995, but
so
that's a musical part of it.
When you started out then and you sort of put these bands together, was being on stage and playing in front of people, was that always very comfortable for you? Or was that sort of an adjustment? Because I know that there are some people who struggle with they enjoy playing and they like playing in the band. When they get up on stage, they get a bit locked up. And then some people
I
just
love
take
it.
So I could, yeah, okay.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I was a showboat from, again, when I was 4. I remember going to see Mary Poppins, and I was about 4. And the Dick Van Dyke scene when he's dancing with the cane.
Yeah.
And yeah.
The Penguins.
Yeah. I had my mom. I didn't want the cane. I used to do the whole thing for everybody. So stuff like that. Then we go to my cousins, and we'd have, like, after dinner, we put on a show, my sister and my other cousins. And so, I mean, I always, wanted, or I would say needed, the attention like that, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
I still get a little nervous from time to time, but I love that little twinge of, like,
Well, that's the thrill of it, though, right? That's the thrill.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, and I think that if that ever goes away, I always think that you're probably playing a little bit safe. It's like I talk, I'm a manager of an IT group, and I bring guys in, and I know that I'm going to get them for about 3 or 4 years probably, and then hopefully if they're really good, they'll move on.
Right.
And I always say to them, like, if you're moving on to a job where you're not nervous about whether you can do it or not, don't move, because that's the wrong job. You shouldn't know whether you can do it if you're going to move on. And I think it's the same with performing, right? Like, if you hit 5,000, then 10,000, if you're playing from 20,000, you should have that little thing of, oh, that's a big crowd,
Yeah. It's funny with me, the bigger crowds don't affect me as much as, like, a small bunch of, like, 10 people in a small room looking at me.
Right.
That freaks me out.
So if you can see the whites of their eyes, it's a little bit.
Wedding. If I have to sing at a wedding, like the one song when they're coming down or whatever, I can't stand it. Butterflies, and like, oh my God, I'm going to blow it. And what if I do? And, but I did have a rush. We played the Concord Pavilion with Tesla and Leonard Skinner, and we opened up. We were the first band, and that was something. And that was a little like, all right. And then you go out there, like in football, if you played football, you were nervous before a big game. And once the kickoff happened and you got hit, you were back in, you're in.
It just becomes muscle memory, right? Yeah, because I grew up playing rugby.
Downbeat of the drums.
Yeah,
I'm fine. So
because you've done it a million times. Like and it's that thing. I know these songs. I don't need to worry about it. I can play that. And I know that Django's going to keep that together. And I know that I know my part. So once you get through that first little bit of nerves, I was the same. I'm playing rugby growing up, and I played at a reasonable level. I felt physically
you get the butterfly.
Sick. Felt physically sick before every game. As soon as the ref blows whistle, no problem.
It's a big deal when you're a teenager, I think, too, that, at that age, and, when you're 14 or 15 and you hear the roar out there before you go out, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's like shows. They're exciting, and they're, it's a wonderful feeling. Me and Django, I remember about 2-3 years ago when Tom's movie came out about Wildflowers.
Somebody feel free.
Asked for the Sonoma Film Festival to play Wildflowers before the premiere in the theater.
Oh, cool.
At Dobby Theater in Sonoma. And I remember waiting to go on with it. And, it wasn't it's not a big theater, but for some reason, we both looked at each other and went, oh my God, we really felt like just, oh my God, we can't blow this. It's that thing, like, I can't blow this. But if I don't sing it right, whatever. And it never happens.
Well, and of course, and I think that that's where also, as you were saying earlier, with the petty theft gig and with the illegals, it sounds the same thing. You're not going out there doing the hats and the wigs and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't sound exactly like Petty, that's going to be some completely obvious to everyone, and they're going to come
Right.
along with it, right? Because your personality is going to come through that.
Right. That's important I mean, that's why I think we have the success we have.
Yeah.
Because those guys that dress up are a dime a dozen, and nothing to say against them doing that. I mean, that's part of the tribute thing for people.
Yeah.
I myself personally don't enjoy that, to see a guy that looks like person. It's too weird, you know.
I
It's
struggle with it too.
weird for me. I'd rather and petty theft's always been about the songs, honoring him as a songwriter and the energy of the band, I mean, and like Steve Ferroni says, you're not going to be the Heartbreakers, but you're really good. I said, yeah, dude, I know that.
No one's ever going to be the Heartbreakers.
No one's ever going to be the Heartbreakers. So we try to not recreate it or sound like it. We just do our thing. We add stuff to the music, like we put in the Joker during You Know How It Feels.
Yeah.
And we discussed that on the show. That actually, the funny thing is, I had the idea when we first started, like 20 years ago, to put it in there. And then I found out later, Django says, you know what? Tom wrote You Know How It Feels based on
that groove.
Joker.
Yeah.
And so I knew, I mean, I just felt like at the time it needed to have something when you can just go doom, doom, do, do, do. And you could do it right in that groove, and it works. And the chords are pretty much the same.
Yep. And it's such a sweet pocket to sit in though, right? That's the other thing about that groove, is just that you can sit in it all day long, So
yeah, absolutely. It's so Bonham like to me, right?
Yeah, it's got that bottom end for sure.
Yeah, we bring it up a little bit just to, we also weld in like the Joker, and then we go to this kind of reggae groove, and then we go back out. But anyway, that's petty theft.
Well,
let's talk about me now.
Let's talk about Dan Durkin, because that's why I invited you on. You dropped on your socials this new song, When Love Is Not Around.
Yeah.
And you put a little preview, and I thought, this sounds really cool. And not
Thank
what I
you.
was expecting either in a way.
Right.
And also you'd sent me, we were chatting back and forth, and you'd sent me a couple of tracks from your other band, East of Eden.
Right.
This is a massive departure from that, because what I like about this is it's what I sort of taken from my delve into Petty is simplicity sometimes is really freaking cool. And if you can get a song down to exactly as much as it needs,
right,
that's actually a really hard thing to do. It's hard for musicians to cut, right? But this song, it comes in at 2:48,
right,
2 verses, 2 choruses, it's got a bridge, and it's got so much in it, but it's packed in, man. It's beautiful. Yeah.
If I could, I mean, now the East of Eden stuff obviously is not, I actually sent you the opposite of that, with your biggest fan, but that was more of a nod to Lennon and the Beatles. You can tell, the thing at the end is definitely walrusy, and and it's really, it's a cool theme, and I like that. I just want to give you a flavor of that band was about. And then it's R&B-ish too. I mean, and I come from that as well as the Beatle thing. Is I come from Sly Stone and those singers of that day. I mean, obviously I'm a white boy from New York, but I was heavily influenced by I'm going at some bottom and all those guys. I mean, I love that stuff. Marvin Gaye. Oh my God. The singer from the OJs. I mean,
well, that's where I get into conversations with my friends who are the big rock and roll guys about who are the greatest singers. And I always said, like, dude, Otis Redding. Why are none of us talking about how amazing Otis Redding was? That guy's voice, I'd kill for that guy's voice. And
When a Man Loves a Woman. I mean, I heard the other day again. I went, oh my God! And not only that, is his what he had in his vocal and how high he could sing. Yeah, with that. God, and I'm a baritone, so I always just love those guys that could sing high, because I can't do that. I can't do plant. I can't.
Oh God, no. That's a different thing entirely. Right?
It totally is.
Yeah,
but those are the singers, and so that's the stuff that inspires me. And When Love Was Not Around, the funny thing is, I have a demo of that too that was on the East of Eden record, and it was like a bedroom demo. It was kind of cool, and it was a different feel, kind of like Bo Diddley kind of thing. And the cool thing about that is, what's the cool thing about that? What was my thought? Oh, I don't know. I forgot my thought.
That's okay.
I just forgot. What was the reason? Oh, anyway, there's a different version of that on there. And about the song, it was more really influenced by Sean Colvin, if you can believe that.
Okay.
I was listening to a lot of, at that time, I wrote this in like 95, 6, somewhere in there. So this is an older song that was redone now,
Yeah.
last year, and more of, like I said, a country Nashville vibe. But that version of the demo is very Sean Colvin-y to me. Sean Colvin-Lee. I loved her. I thought, those records that she put out,
Yeah.
I thought just amazing.
We touch on that though. I mean, there is definitely a country vibe to this. I mean, it's a country song, but it's not. You're not doing the goofy accent, and that's the other thing I like. But I hate that. I hate it when you hear someone interviewed and you're like, "Well, you're not from Nashville. Why are you?"
Right.
I see guys from Calgary and Vancouver. It's like, no, dude, just sing with your own bloody voice.
Yeah,
it's so
it's
much
Nashville
better.
with a little bit of Beatles and a little Petty. It's like it's me, and the guy I worked with, the producer, was a Nashville guy. So I liked where it was going. We worked together, and so we had some ideas. And once he got this slide thing working with the wows, all that, I went, oh my God, dude, we got to do it this way. I love it. And so it was a little slower than I would normally want it. But man, it came out just so good. But I'm really, really excited about it. Hope you listen to it, people, and check it out.
And yeah, there's going to be lots of links in the episode notes. I'll be sharing this out on social media. And I think where Petty fans can get into this, and my sort of context on the Petty side was that it really reminds me in a way of the Full Moon Fever into the Great Wide Open era of Petty, because it sounds simple. Like and I'll challenge people, listen to the song, then go away and forget about it for a bit, and then think about it. And you think, oh yeah, it's basically just an acoustic. It's kind of like an acoustic mid-tempo. But there's so much guitar laid in this thing. There's so many vocals laid into it, but you don't notice because it's mixed and arranged beautifully. So can you tell me about that process, about working with the producer, about kind of working up the arrangement? What was that process like?
Yeah, so I worked with this company that was, this national company that produces hits. So I thought, well, at first I thought I didn't know it was going to be country till it kind of like, this is what he sent me first. So you give him the demo, and I gave him the demo of the East of Eden cut, which is the version I'm talking about, the Sean Colvin version. So he came back with the beginning of that slowed down kind of country now, and at first I went, boy, I don't know, and so I listened to it for a while and spent a few days, and I kind of went, all right, will it work? And maybe, my thought was maybe I cut it, or I get a guy to be a country guy to cut it to get it signed, because I really think it's a hit. Yeah, and actually, I'm hiring a company's going to work with me to get it on AAA, adult contemporary.
Cool, man.
Well, it's got hit potential. I mean, it really does. And that's the feedback from everybody I've heard from, which is great, and it sticks with you. A buddy said, "Dude, it's been 24 hours. I can't get your song out of my head." Yeah, and I love that. I said, "That's a great thing, right?" He goes, "Yeah, but I'm tired of it."
Well, it's got a great hook, right? I mean, that's the thing. And I wanted to ask you about this because I like, again, another thing with Petty is that he plays, I know Orbison used to do it, and there's all the greats, they mess around with form. And so when I was listening to it, it was like the verse clips along, we got 4 lines in the verse. And then I was trying to think, so I'm trying to forget the way I let you down.
Right.
It's kind of a pre-chorus. And then the chorus is, I can't hold you when love is not around. So like, I love it when people do that. When it's like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, because I was expecting building the pre-chorus and then 8 bars or 12 or 16 bars in the chorus, but you don't get it.
You don't get it.
Really neat.
And that's why I kind of learned is that you don't have to always have that big payoff thing. As long as that, when you get to that point, it just nails the point home like you can't believe. Yeah. And you got nothing else going on. And it's like, I got lucky. I mean, I look at songwriting as something that comes through you, and it's not you, it's just some force that makes it work, because I just went naturally what I would do, and other times I write songs. There's another one that's similar to this. I work with the same guy. And the chorus is really strong on this one, the next one, which I'm going to put. But I agree with that. It's just, I just love it. And I love that we did this. And so he came back again. I said, okay, then you got to kind of go back and say what you like and don't like. And we kind of got there. And then I took the vocals. He sent the tracks here. And then I did my vocals there. And then he had another girl singer. Yeah. And she put on those harmonies, which I, said, okay, she put one on. And I said, nah, that's not where it's going. Do this, if you could do this. And she did, and it kind of worked out. And then the end thing was the same kind of thing. She did something her way, and that one I really liked. So I'm like, so it's nice. I mean, I don't think I do it all the time, these kind of, service production things, but they were into the song. So, and I know that they get a lot of people and have to do a lot of stuff they don't want to do.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, and I said, man, do you think I should have someone else sing it? Because I'm like, because it is really country, and I'm not that country,
Yeah.
And he goes, no, just no, man, that's crazy. We like it.
Like I said, man, that's why it works though, is because
Right.
I get frustrated when it's because it all sounds the same. You turn on Nashville, it's like, oh, they're all doing the
Yeah.
twang. It's all, and I don't care about that. Then it just becomes noise after that. After a
It
while,
does. It
so
does.
there's a great artist up here who used to be in a band called the Northern Pikes, which they were kind of a big deal in Canada for a wee while. And same thing, he sort of does quite a bit of country in his solo career, but he's got his own voice, and I love it. So even if you
Right.
don't, oh, I don't like country, and there's lots of people out there who say that, it's like, yeah, I think it's the twang that you don't like. If you listen to
Right.
someone who sings over top of, if you like guitars and you
Right.
like good drumming and you like good bass lines, you'll like a lot of country. Just
Right.
get rid of that crarazy voice, right? If that's what puts
It's
you off.
I
So,
mean, it's a phenomenon how it happened. I mean, it's like this kind of Frankenstein of songs, right? As it is, because
Yeah.
it's got this kind of like, I didn't really want to go there with that, exactly. But all of a sudden it just kind of like went, yeah. Once those guitars were going on, I'm like, oh no, this is this, And so maybe I have a niche in the Americana world, and I can write to niches. So if I need to kind of get into that,
Yeah.
I can. But the song I sent you, the other one, the gospel one, that's part of me, which is recent now too. But that's my other R&B flavor, which I love.
oh yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that one in a little bit, but man, that's completely. I was like, whoa, okay, so we're
Yeah.
not sticking in that lane. Then we're branching
No,
all
so-
over the place here.
What do you do these days? Because it's like, you have to identify yourself as something, but I don't know, man. I'm just running to write. It's not on my mind to really be an artist right now. It's at
Yeah.
64 years old. I mean, it could happen. I don't, I mean, it's just a rock band doing my songs. So I could pull that together anytime if we needed to do that, or we got like, it's just starting to kind of heat up a little bit. You never know. So I just do what my influence is. And so it's across the board, but these two songs, the country ones, were more really not something I would have gone with,
Do
but
you
I
think?
have, and now I kind of go,
Yeah, and that's I think always the advantage of working with an external producer or someone who's
Yeah.
going to give you that different look, right? Because I know that that's where Let Me Up, I've Had Enough, the Heartbreakers album, I think suffers because they don't have that external voice saying,
Right.
really? Is that kind of okay? We'll try it this way. So, do you think when you were younger, do you think you would have been more resistant to being pushed in that direction? Do you think there's a bit of experience there of having played with lots of different people that makes you more open to people saying, well, how about doing it this way?
not in my 20s.
Right.
Yeah. I was kind of just set on, this is, and I always kind of get embarrassed to say this, but it's a guilty pleasure, but I was into I was always into pop and radio, and I love American radio. I love pop in the 70s. In the 80s I started this, and from friends playing records, I started getting to Kenny Loggins, and not Kenny Loggins solo, cool Kenny Loggins, not like soundtrack Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
So I'm talking Night Watch. Yeah, if you know Kenny Loggins, there's, he's got like Bob James producing him, the great jazz guy who wrote Taxi, and it's got Celebrate Me Home and stuff. It's like, to me, it's like, that was the Kenny I loved.
Yeah.
And he got more modern as time went by, and I used to go see his shows, but I was really influenced by his voice,
Right.
on the soft things, right?
Yeah.
So it was a big influence. So I was kind of like, got into that kind of Michael McDonald thing a little bit, Christopher Cross. I was really into that early 80s kind of pop singer guys, for some reason.
Well, yeah, but you take, like I said, that's where you take all those bits in. And I
Right.
think it's like any musician, really, who your influence is. Well, any musician, when you really think about it, it's everything. Everything I hear influences me because I'm going to,
Stephen Bishop.
right.
I love Stephen Bishop, but not the Stephen Bishop that you know of down in Jamaica, but his album stuff, his cuts. There's some beautiful songs.
Yeah.
So, part of me also is the ballad guy, and I have another song coming out that's going to be just piano and me. Really exciting. But, dude, I just love it all. I really do.
Yeah.
But I wasn't never a metal 80s guy. Not a Poison, not, AC/DC I dig because that was really like, carnal. But still not, but Zepp is one of my favorites of all time. Bad Company, that voice. So it's kind of all around the place.
Yeah, Paul Rogers is again just one of those
Oh,
guys. You say, well, we'll talk about Paul Rogers and with everyone else because he's one of those guys. I'm not going to try and sing like that guy.
We spent a show on Paul Rogers. So anyway, it's this is all new for me. I kind of just the funny thing is in 2004 so I had East of Eden, which we were talking about, that band, and I didn't send you the single, but the single got on college radio nationally, and so we were in like the top 200, which is really cool for college radio.
Yeah, no
1997, I think. We couldn't do anything with it because we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't have the money. We didn't have a label, but we were getting interest, but we couldn't go out and promote. Did a couple of TV shows locally, but so that was all over, and I was done. I was done being the front guy. I was done. You know how it is when you're an original band. You're putting out money. You're paying other people before you.
Yeah.
We actually was in Toronto. East of Eden went to the North by Northwest.
Okay. The festival. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were invited to do that. We sent a thing in, and they said, "Oh, come." And we went to Toronto, and I love Canada. It's so funny. I always say the joke about Canadian people at a stop sign. You're never going to go anywhere because the guy, "Oh, you go. Oh, you go." No, man, I don't want to go. I want you to go because Canadians are so nice. I even get that vibe when we play up when Petty Theft plays in Portland and Seattle. You get a little bit of that Canadian influence in there, and everybody's so darn nice. So anyway, we played North by Northeast. That's what it was, obviously. And nothing great happened of it, but we went out there and played. I got to see Toronto, and I loved it.
Oh man.
Yeah. What was the other question?
Well, I was going to ask you from a songwriting perspective then on this song. There are certain songs you think, as a songwriter, you think, I bet you that's where he started. I think that's where he started. And it could be with, the opening line, sometimes where you start in the verse. Sometimes it's the chorus line. To me, that line, when love is not around, I'm thinking, I bet you that was sitting around and he's just thinking, I can build out from that. Because it feels like a song that's built out from the chorus. And it's got that universality to it.
Right.
But I wanted to ask you what your starting point was with it.
No, it was the riff.
Oh, crap.
and it was another cigarette, one more round. I love that was a blessing. I'm like, I just kind of thought about it. I'm like, now, you could tell that it's kind of 20 years old because no one's smoking anymore, but you're in a bar smoking, one more cigarette and, one more round. I can't go home just yet. My sorrows are quite not drowned. I thought, oh my God, that is gold. So that's how it started. So I built it from there, but there's definitely Beatle influence in the chordal structure from the F minor to B7 at round. You can hear a little bit of that, and especially the which you would call pre-chorus, I guess. What is it? Na 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 day of a clown. It's very kind of Lennon-y to me, for
Right.
I think that stuff's always it's always going to be in your back of your mind,
Of course it is, yeah, of course.
Beatles, anybody. And they'll say it, any of these great writers kind of owe that little Lennon McCartney.
Of course they do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with letting it come through either, because there's a reason why they were successful. Yeah. Because they used all the tricks in the book, so let's borrow from them. But it's funny you mentioned that cigarette line, because I was thinking about that too. And I think that it does sort of, it gives the song almost a nostalgic feel, right? Because you're thinking back to a time when you used to go to a bar and people would be smoking, and it wasn't now. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. Because when I put this out, I'm like, wow, and the reason I did this first was really to get with music supervisors.
Okay.
And so I wasn't thinking about, being an artist again, which I'm kind of obviously doing now. And I'm putting out there to see how it goes, and who likes it and what's going to look like, and so I think it's a great song. But I really first did it and that's why I let the country thing go, because I thought, well, this is the way to do it with these guys, right? They're part of this company that did that shop for you for music supervisors. So I met a Canadian lady who, what was the show that was running for 15 years that was like a country vibe show in Canada? Oh. I know. I wish I knew it now.
I'm not sure.
It's a big one, and it just wrapped up like a year or 2 years ago. One name, and it's country. It's it's about a country family and cowboys and stuff. And it's Canadian. They shoot it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now, and I can't think of the name of it.
I can't get the name. But there's a supervisor who does it, who was the supervisor for that show for 15
Okay.
years. She's broken a lot of people. She loved my voice. She said, "Oh my God." And this was the she goes, "I love your voice, and you should be able to, go do this on your own, but I'll take the song." And then I get this email like 2 days later saying, it's in the queue for the end credits for the end of the season.
Oh,
And I'm like, "Are you
nice.
kidding me?" She goes, "No." I said, "Go, but we have, what happens now is like I put three up for the director, and then he has to decide what he likes, and he
Yeah.
passed on it. So, but it was
Right.
that would have changed everything.
That's
Anyway,
cool though, because that does show you. I mean, it's kind of it's the business side of the show, right? Is that it doesn't matter how good the song is, you still always need that little bit of luck,
you do, you
because
do,
you listen to some songs, you
yeah,
think, really, that one?
right,
Oh, okay, it's not as good as my
right,
song, but there's something
right,
about it. The director thought, well, I'll
yep.
go that direction, and that's
And
the
but
intangible that you
I
can't
agree,
control.
Kevin, and I think that it's also what fits creatively with the scene.
Yeah,
He's rolling the stuff and going, okay, he's playing all three of them, and he went through them, and it's like, well, no, that one he had that, but this one, and
yeah,
I can see that. It's hard to take that no, or that rejection. It
yeah,
kind of hurt me a little bit and to kind of get me out of like placing songs again. But that's why I kind of went, you know what, this song deserves to be out there, and that was how this all started. It's
yeah.
like this needs to go out there. I'm going to give it my best push I can, and see where it goes. I'm really happy, and the video was
Oh,
really fun.
dude, I wanted to talk to you about the video because the video is
Yeah,
amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I
I
was
know,
like,
and
what
I
the?
got lucky. I got really lucky, man. It was the AI thing called Fireframe. I want to give it away to everybody because it's,
Okay,
but anyway, go use it, people. Anyway, it's an AI formatted thing. You pick these genres of the way it's filmed. So there was a regular way to do it, like with footage, whatever, and one of them is watercolor. And I picked that. And then what you do is you put the song up, and
okay,
then it's on a reel, kind of like a reel, just like iMovie or something. And you have these snippets. Do you go by beat or you go by seconds of where you want scenes to change? And IA will put in those scenes for you. So you can either type in what you want and it'll
wow,
kind of do that, or it gives suggestions. So the first thing is like the cigarette bar thing. I'm like, okay, let's just see how this goes. And I'm just trying it, and I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. And so it kind of just kept going. And then the clown thing was like when the clown turns into the kid and he's in the room. I
it's
mean, that was like just
crazy how cool that is,
godsend
man.
buck. I don't, but
Yeah,
I'm like, that is so creative, man. And so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that again. I tried the second song so far, and I'm like not liking where that's going with
yeah,
the second one. It's just kind of familiar. It's like When Love Is Not Around too. It's very similar in vibe. It's a more hard rocker. But
okay.
but anyway, that's how the video kind of came together.
So
And
did you essentially then you storyboarded that then? Like you sort of fed the AI and
yes,
told it.
yeah,
That's
you
super cool because
storyboard it as you go. Yeah, you think
okay,
about
yeah.
your song and each scene, and you have like up to about 30 seconds, maybe a little less of stuff, because once you go past it, it tells you, no, this is too long.
Yeah.
So that you have to kind of tail it back. You can change the camera angles. You can move it where it wants to
Wow.
go, up and down, sideways, zooming in. So I kind of did a random thing on it. And it randomly like went where I wanted to go. And these hearts show up because I did love on this. Yeah, all the things you type in. And I think I did like most of my ideas. And then a couple that I let the IA, take a stab at it. So it was a combination of both those things. So it was
That's
like, and the
crazy.
reason I love this thing is because the Beatles, I'm Only Sleeping, when Revolver was put out, what, 3 years ago for the 60-year anniversary
Yeah.
remix? Well, there's a video that I'm Only Sleeping was done by this director. It was the first one in that kind of format. If you go see
To
it,
watch that, yeah, okay.
same one, same. I guess it's a new thing everybody can get now. The technology is this watercolor movement stuff. So
Yeah.
that's where I went. This is Beatly. I love it. So I'm going to do this one.
Well, you know
That's
what it
why I
reminded
chose
me
that.
of though is just the way it moves around because what I love about it is it, like you said that it's a bit bewildering at first because the aspect changes and then it rotates and then it pans and then it shifts and it tracks
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff. But it
Yes.
reminded me a lot of Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms, which is that sketch. I don't know if you're familiar with the video, but it's like a hand-drawn charcoal sketch kind of thing, but
Right.
it kind of morphs into different things. I was like, that's incredible that that's all AI because even like little decision points in that video where you get a teaser of the clown before the clown line comes and the big clown comes
Right. He's
into
sitting
that
there.
building. You can see there's
know,
the little clown changes. I was like,
Yeah.
that's neat, man. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Now that happened because I went in, I couldn't figure out how to get into the scene on time. So it actually starts a little earlier, right? These are all these happy accidents, that happen with it. And that's why I want to send it into a lot of things and like a contest. I think it's just so cool. And AI, yeah, you can go too far with it. We are, and hopefully robots aren't going to all kill us, in 5 years. But I think it can be, utilized in the right way. And and I worked with the AI person, you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah, well, and I don't think it really is just another tool, right? In our tool sets as creative people to storyboard or to come up with ideas or to do things when we don't have, because that would be a $50,000 video if you had to pay an artist to come in and to do that, right? And so
yes,
on that side of it,
must
really
be $20.
frees us up to, yeah, there you go. That's right.
So $9.95 to do the whole thing, and then as you go along, it does these. They're called lumens, LUMENS, right? So you have to, if you want to, it's like a pay as you go, put in the money as you go kind of thing. So it said you need more lumens to finish this. So another $10. You can go even make more elaborate if you want. So it was $20.
Wow, man, that's super cool.
Really, really cool. I hate to give away all that to everybody because I should have said it was just me and I came up with the concept, but nah.
Well, but I mean, just to draw a line under the AI discussion, though, I mean, I think that the misconception sometimes is that you just say, "Go AI," and you can do, but you still need someone to poke it and prod it. Say, "Well, no, not quite there, or not quite this," or let's change the
24
color.
Hours on it.
100%.
I spent a day going back, and you have to load it. It takes about 10 minutes for each 20 seconds. It takes like 10, 15 minutes for it to load,
render.
Come back, and then play it back and see how you feel about it. So I did a lot of that. I mean, so definitely a lot of me in there guiding,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a new era and you got to embrace it, right? I mean, that's the thing with it. So so we've got a new single. You got a new single coming out, and you'd written. I hope maybe, and if you don't want me to keep this in, just let me know. But you'd written when you messaged me. You said next tune I'm releasing will be good for Kamala and the cause.
Yeah,
which is
so how that started. It's called "We're Gonna Get There," and again, I was really writing it for TV and stuff, and but we were going through that George Floyd stuff, and COVID was just on the end of it, right? We're all COVID done, and then the riots and the George Floyd thing happened, and so I just felt really inspired to do something, and it came in a dream. So and that's one of the few times that a melody and a line came to me in a dream. So I got up at like 3:30 in the morning. And I went to my phone to just tape that what was the beginning of it,
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, we're going to get there, right? And I was kind of somehow, some way, we're going to get there. And I just put it, and I went back to bed. And then the next morning, I was hearing it again, and I kind of just got into my Logic thing and put a groove down, and it just kind of just happened. And then the lyrics I wrote it within an hour.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and because I felt of those things so strongly.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, it was the riots and all that. So the lyrics are really based on that. But when you now go to where we are now, and, I have, just to be clear, I don't judge anybody on their political views at all.
Yeah.
Whatever you have to vote, you feel is you do it. I'm just going from my perspective.
Yeah.
And being that she's from San Francisco and all that. But anyway, I just think that with the way now we've been, it's been depressing. Joe is old, and for me, I was like, she's not going to get through this, man.
Yeah.
And, it's a depressing thing. And so all of a sudden this, invigoration happened, and things have changed. And I just feel like the song really still owes to what was written back then, but more in, like we're going to get there and get past all this stuff.
Well, it's an anthem of positivity, right? Is what we're going for.
Political views, you have them. Anybody has them.
Absolutely.
You do what you do. I'm just doing it from an artistic standpoint.
Yeah, and music is a unifier. And like I said, it's got this, it is a positive message. I mean, you take out that perspective and that sort of that specificity, the universality of that song is whatever the hardship is that anyone's going through, we're going to get there. And I love that it's we're going to get there and not I'm going to get there, because that's inclusive.
Even a friend said that could be on a sexual thing too. I thought that's a little too far, dude. But he said, yeah, man, when you think about it, I said, I guess. people make it what they want to make it, but it's really about, it's about just getting to the promised land finally, and that we can all just, live in a world that's, not so divided, and the hatred stops. And I just kind of felt like, so my thing is, my wife's like, you need to put this out. She says, don't put out the second song now that you did that's like the other one. Put out this song now and see what happens. And I said, all right. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at a video guy for this that can put stuff together that's really going to be impactful, because I don't think the AI thing is going to really go where I want it to go. I might try it, but I think I want to, and I can't use her likeness or anything, but I can kind of do shadow of her. It can insinuate that. It can do, there's a lot of ways you can go with it. So I'm going to confer with a video guy and put it out. So I think it's really important.
When it's got this
fire killer.
Well, it's also got this kind of disco feel to it too, though, right? It's got like that killer bass line in there, and it's got. And
I played all the bass lines.
Really?
Yeah, it's keyboard bass. Yeah.
Oh no, that's super cool, because I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's slapping sample.
Oh, okay.
At first, I was a little scared because it almost sounded like Seinfeld for a minute. With the slap thing was on the bass, but it's not. But
it just sounds funky.
It's really funky.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't say disco, but it is. I started out. I changed the beat, but you know who produced this with me? Well, who mixed it and produced it was Chris Manning from Jellyfish.
Oh, so geez, it's okay. Yeah.
So he took the tracks, and then he said, "Dude, you need to play real drums on this too." So I played real drums on it.
Okay.
And what else did I play on it? And then the guitar stuff is just guitar stuff here and there. He goes, do like Prince would do. Each verse, just make it totally different. And I try to. I'm not sure if it does, but it doesn't matter, because it goes where it wants to go, but it does build up, and the end is, with the gospel choir is killer.
Dude, I got to tell you, man, because I'd actually written down, this is something that Prince would do. I literally wrote down on my screen.
Wow,
this is really? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, which is cool. Really, really funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris kind of, he didn't produce it, like it wasn't there, except for when we did the drum overdub at his place. But he would keep saying, all right, this is great. Now do this here. What would Prince do? Think what Prince would do. So that's when I got the whole, all the wah-wah stuff on the second verse, and I think being more funkier, but I did the B3 piano. There was a guy named John Barn who was in Petty Theft. He played the piano stuff, so he really did great on that. Cool, but I did the B3 and the bass and that program, and the claps and all the. But I'm really, really excited about that song, and see how it's responded. I'm glad that you liked it, because I wasn't sure. I was like, I wonder if he's gonna like this tune, man. So.
Yeah, dude, my palette's quite broad, and I've got a good friend who writes a lot more. Well, one of his bands, his name is Abso-Funkin' So like it's a lot of R&B and a lot of disco, a lot of that kind of stuff. So I'm on board with that. But I think that one of the other reasons where I think I would be okay with listening to pretty much anything you threw at me, really, is because I like your voice. Because that's the kicker for me, is always, if I like a singer's voice, that's going to carry a lot of weight. True.
Well, thank you, appreciate that.
So is there an album coming then? Is that are we working towards an album, or are you?
I mean, I have 6 or 7.
Okay.
And I also have a cover of a Beatle tune, which I did like 15 years ago, but it's Hide Your Love Away, but it's like a real Americana swing. It's really cool. And I'm not sure if I need to remix it yet. I have to see, so and will this be too eclectic on an album, And should I just do like 5 songs that are Americana, like When Love Is Not Around, and do that? And then, I don't know, They say that, the guys that do the promotion for all this stuff, because I'm new at it.
Yeah.
And you have to do so much. It's like, oh my God. Video promos, this, that. I mean, you want to really get it out there. But my next deal is to kind of just, maybe put it all together. But they say release one single at a time.
Yeah.
Every month, 8 weeks, put something out. So, and then if it comes to an album, I'll package it all together. But I think I'm just doing song by song. And maybe that's a good thing for me because of the variety that I write in.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just the way things go these days. I mean, the market, the market in quotes, has changed. And people don't tend to, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I've got my vinyl corner here, and I listen to vinyl mainly how I listen to music. But so that's not the way that people consume their media anymore. It's got to be, you got to fit it on here, and it's got to be short and punchy, and it's got to work. So
now they do say that when you have a bunch of numerous songs, though, you want to get that list for playlists. You want, when they go, like right now they're going to just one song, right? And they like, who is this guy? It's one song. They want to see, this is what the promotional people say.
Yeah.
You want to put out stuff as much as you can, as fast as you can, so the list gets longer and they're more apt to really delve into you. I'm just starting, so
Well, this is
I'll
great
follow
though, man. I
you.
mean, and you're just starting it. This is the beauty of the modern world is at 64, you're still able to,
I know.
which by the way, I would never have guessed in a million bloody years. That's annoying that you're looking so good for 64, dude. That's
Well, this should be white, so this is for showbiz people. Yeah, I'd be Santa Claus right here, so and my aches and pains definitely say I'm 64, but you wouldn't know that. Thank you. Thank you. I always think it's in an attitude.
for sure.
I think it's
Yeah.
an attitude and how you look at the world. And when I look at some of my contemporaries I like went to school with, and I see some of them I haven't seen in a while, I kind of go, wow, to myself, like, boy,
Yeah.
I look like that. And I said to my wife, do I look that old? She goes, no,
No.
you don't act that old either. So
Well, yeah, and if I think if you do have a bit of a childlike wonder about the world and an inquisitiveness and a sort of a
Well, I think
curiosity
that
about things, that's
artists, us people that
yeah.
do this stuff, it's like, this is, you're not in this kind of dreaded thing of working and or whatever and
Yeah.
going through the motions of life. That's, I don't think everybody does that, but I'm just saying that, for me, it's like, I've always done it, music, because I've always had that zest to do things and be positive as much as I can.
It's that real passion for creating, right? I mean, I think that's the thing that when you are a creative type of any stripe, you just can't turn that tap off, right? Because it's just always, things are always coming in. And people ask me sometimes, like, how do you find all this time to do all these podcasts? It's like, well, when you're sitting down watching like a Netflix series for 6 hours or 3 hours on a weekend, and I don't do that. I sit down and I write or I do. That's my
fun.
relaxation time. Absolutely. Yeah.
I can tell you love it the way you're talking to me, I mean, that you love what you do and you love talking to people. So it's great, man. I was just so happy that you tinged me there and said, hey man, be on the show again. So
yeah, definitely. Because that's the part of this podcast that I've just loved so much is it's brought me into contact with just really freaking cool people and hearing new songs that I wouldn't, because I might not stumble across this song had I not had you on through Petty Theft. And I'm glad that I've got this song in my life now because I love it. Everyone should check it out. Everyone should be going downloading it and buying it because you can buy it as well. And eventually when there's, if there are CDs or there's merchandise and we've got dandurkin.com set up, then we'll get the people directed there and they can support you financially as well, because that's very important.
Appreciate it. I went to my thing first. It's only been 4 days, but I kind of went to CD Baby to see how it was doing. It was like, yeah, okay. I was like,
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it takes a while for it to
100%.
Kind of, I'm on a campaign that doesn't, you have to really check in a month to see how it does. It's supposed to get you up to 50,000, or so. We'll see how it goes. But my next thing is like radio, and I come from that. You come from that, and it's still happening. There's lots of stations out there, and they're just, you don't have a place to go get the record now. You just go to your Spotify or whatever. So I'm probably going to do the radio thing because it's like I've always done that, and I think it's just a thrill to do that. I really think this song is so radio friendly.
100%, man.
So I'm going to put some money into that promotion next.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Look, thanks so much for jumping on too. This has been a blast again. I knew that we'd have a great conversation.
I know you're a good guy, man. I just love it. And Django says hello. He's like, cool, man. He can tell him I said hello. And, I'll send you more stuff. You get the
definitely. Yeah, that would be fantastic. And when, as we go through and if we want to jump back on and talk about some more songs, this is the nice thing about it. I don't have a producer and I don't have a label telling me what I can and can't do. I can talk to anyone I damn well please. So,
all right, Kevin, that's awesome. Thank you. So Spotify, folks, everything downloadable, Amazon, Spotify, it's on there. Look under Dan Durkin, and there's a link probably that Kevin will do, right? Or
there'll be links in the episode notes. There'll be links online. So
you'll edit this and do what you got to do.